The dark streak sometimes comes suddenly and crosses out all the good that was in life. This is what happened to Henry. At 39, he suddenly found himself completely alone. One evening, a few days before Christmas, his wife told him that for the past few months, she had been seeing someone else, loved him, and they were planning to get married. She was taking the children with her and expected that he wouldn't lay claim to their shared apartment and car. And yet, he had already bought gifts and booked entertainers for the Christmas celebration to make the children happy. It seemed strange to be concerned about this at such a moment, but for some reason, it was the first thing that came to mind. Henry moved to a country house for a while, sometimes spending the night in his small restaurant, to which he had dedicated 10 years of his life. Business had been going poorly in the last year, to be honest. New establishments had opened nearby, attracting more guests. If in the past he had wanted to change the interior, order advertisements, and develop a new menu, now it was divorce, moving, rare meetings with the children, and forced interaction with his ex-wife's new man that had completely killed any desire to do anything. All financial and administrative matters were shouldered by his assistant, Ella. Do as you see fit, Henry would often reply to her questions. Of course, with this approach, nothing good could come of it, and the business was bringing in less and less income. Several months went by, and by May, Henry had become completely dispirited, lost weight, always looked tired, had turned pale, and had completely lost his zest for life. On the weekends, some old friends invited him to the sauna to relax and have heart-to-heart conversations. This truly benefited him. He opened up and finally shared his feelings. My wife and I also went our separate ways 2 years ago, but look at how I'm living now. No scandals, no obligations. In fact, I've even aged backward by 10 years during this time. Supported his childhood friend named Alex. Well, you can't really compare. Henry is a family man and an exemplary father, argued Henry's other friend. After a while, the friends decided to motivate their best friend, who had suffered greatly after his divorce from his beloved wife, and said, "Let's make a bet, if you don't earn at least $1 million in a month, you leave your entire business in a state of inactivity and go to a resort." During the conversation, the friends put forth the idea that managing the business was better than he, in his current state, could. Anyone, even a dishwasher. Unfortunately, they didn't forget their idea. "Yeah, have you all gone crazy or something?" Henry laughed during their new meeting in June. "I have a dishwasher, a woman with a criminal past, and I only hired her because she begged me. To be fair, she has never let me down. She works well and responsibly." He chuckled and shared some business-related news with his friends. "Well, that's great. Just what we need. Anyway, things with the business are in a sorry state. So, there's a chance. Leave the business of a lifetime to your own devices and try to relax on the seashore?" Continued to persuade the main character's friends. In the past, Henry would have immediately rejected his friend's idea. But now, despair and personal sorrow had truly left him at a dead end. He was ready to agree to anything. The next day, Henry returned to his restaurant and approached one of the employees, saying, "I'm going on vacation for a week, and you'll be in charge." The employee was surprised and asked, "Are you really leaving everything to me?" "Yes. If you need anything, talk to the bartender or the waitstaff. They've been working here for a long time and can assist." Evelyn, the same employee, remained standing, not sure whether the director was being serious or making a strange joke. "And what should I do, Henry?" Ella ran after him. "The same as always," he replied without hesitation, then turned around and looked significantly at her. He continued, "Ella, would you like to go somewhere with me?" These were words Ella had been waiting for a long time. Her boss had never noticed it, but she was in love with him and had tried to help him in everything. He, on the other hand, attributed all of this to her responsibility and productivity. In the evening of the same day, Henry decided to meet with his mother and inform her of his decision to go on vacation with Ella. "What? What are you saying?" reacted Henry's mother, named Charlotte. "Everything will be fine, Mom. It's time for me to take a break. Henry began to reassure his mother. If you return to your restaurant and find that all the expensive appliances have been stolen and there are alcoholics sprawled across the bar, know that it's the expected outcome. She protested almost without stopping. Henry was aware of all of this, but the decision had been made. Go, go. I can already see your bewildered face. You left as a businessman, and you'll return unemployed with debts. His mother complained and worried greatly as he was about to leave. In June, Henry and Ella went on vacation. The main character carried heavy thoughts with him, while Ella was happy and full of hope. However, the one who truly had a tough time was Evelyn. She had never managed anything, worked as a cook before her time in prison, and afterwards, she could only count on positions like a cleaner, janitor, or dishwasher. On her first day of work, she felt strange and uncomfortable. Evelyn had a hard time talking to her other colleagues, who regarded her with suspicion. However, gradually, she relaxed and started paying attention to her surroundings. Instead of curtains, there were blinds, a strict design in pastel tones, and artificial greenery. Uncomfortable, she thought, and began to change the restaurant's interior. Meanwhile, Henry and Ella had arrived, checked into their hotel, and set off to explore the city. At first, Henry spoke very little, regretting the whole endeavor, while Ella, on the contrary, was excited about everything. She took pictures of everything and planned excursions for every day. By evening, he, too, had caught her enthusiasm, and now they were sitting in a charming restaurant with a view of the coast, chatting about everything. There came a moment when Henry suddenly forgot all his problems. For the first time in several months, thoughts of his children, his ex-wife, bills, purchases, and restaurant advertising didn't cross his mind. It was simply good to sit there, drinking wine, eating a huge hot pizza, watching the sea ripple outside the window, reflecting the setting sun. Cozy, warm, delicious. Next to him was a beautiful and interesting girl. They had met 5 years ago when he was looking for someone who could be his personal assistant. Juggling everything on his own was quite challenging, but having someone to remind, take notes, made it much easier. After several unsuccessful interviews, he chose her because she seemed active, sociable, and responsible. She was exactly as she appeared, but he had never paid attention to her as someone who could be his partner. However, now he looked closely and realized that in addition to being a good employee, she was also an attractive girl. She was petite, slender, with light hair, blue eyes, and a pleasant smile. This week became a turning point for both of them. It's one of those situations where longtime acquaintances suddenly realize that they feel good together, not only in work or friendship. At first, Henry was waiting for the catch. He couldn't believe that she could be good at everything. They became lovers, colleagues, and friends simultaneously. The vacation will end, and you'll see that I'm just a failure with a failed business, and you'll find someone else. Henry pondered while lying in bed. Nonsense. We'll go back, and we'll fix everything. I don't think there won't be a stone left unturned in 2 weeks. Everything can be fixed. Ella smiled and replied. The remaining days went exceptionally well. Each day, they went to the beach, took city tours, shopped for souvenirs, and spent their evenings by the sea. They tried new dishes and drinks, and their souls felt light. The thought that everything would work out finally calmed all the past unpleasant emotions. Ella was such a positive and pleasant girl that it was impossible to suffer beside her. They spent their last morning in the hotel room, and during the day, they went for a swim. The weather was sunny but not too hot. The water was warm and inviting. They both wanted to leave and stay at the same time. Late in the evening, they sat in a taxi at the airport and departed to their homes. The next morning, they decided to visit the restaurant and see what was left of it. Something's not right, Henry said as they approached the building. Curtains have appeared, Ella replied. When they entered, they didn't recognize the dining hall. If there hadn't been guests, they would have taken a closer look at everything. But at the moment, they could only notice the green curtains, live plants on the windowsills, tablecloths on the tables, and little vases on each table. It's starting to look like a cafeteria, don't you think? Henry asked Ella. I like it. It feels homely, and it seems the guests do too, she replied. Indeed, many of the tables were occupied. Subtle music played, and the speakers were arranged differently. Hello, Evelyn. How are things here? Henry asked. Hello, Henry. I don't know if you'll like my idea, but I wanted to make everything feel more homely. I think people need that, Evelyn said, somewhat shyly. Not bad. What else would you like to change? Henry inquired. I would give the waitstaff different aprons, change the menu, and add a simpler, more understandable dish made from basic ingredients but with an interesting presentation, Evelyn confidently replied. The idea was truly excellent, and Henry decided to invest in it. Ella supported him, setting tasks for the chefs, the photographer, and the marketer. There was a lot of work to be done, and the final result was still a long way off, but the idea resonated with the guests. In the evenings, something that hadn't happened in a long time occurred. All the tables were reserved and occupied. One evening, Henry left work late and met Evelyn in the corridor, who had now been promoted and was working in the kitchen, helping with cooking and developing the new menu. Soon, she wanted to take a modern culinary course to refresh her knowledge and learn new things. Evelyn, may I ask a personal question? Henry inquired. Yes, of course, replied Evelyn. Why did you end up in prison? The restaurant owner suddenly asked. Evelyn paused, lost in thought, and then replied. I was working at a cafe. The director there wasn't very vigilant about what was happening. Many people were taking things, some food, and as it turned out, some money. I knew about it but kept quiet, out of fear. At some point, it all came to light, and the director called the police. The investigation took a long time. I didn't know, but it seems my colleagues decided to say that I was the one taking everything out. I appeared to be the only one who wasn't involved. I didn't have money for a lawyer, so they assigned a public defender. That's how it turned out. But I didn't spend much time in prison. Besides, I never wanted to steal and don't know how. You don't need to worry about it. I'm not worried. Quite the opposite. Thank you. To be honest, I expected to find this place either closed or in a worse state. You've breathed new life into the establishment. Henry praised his restaurant employee. I just suggested the idea, a bashful Evelyn replied. Evelyn indeed completed the culinary course and soon officially took on the role of a chef. Her new responsibilities and salary gave her confidence, and she even transformed for the better outwardly. The menu was revamped, the waitstaff received stylish aprons, and a new illuminated sign was ordered. The homely atmosphere was truly more appealing to people than strict formality. Henry seemed to come alive as well. The new responsibilities took up a lot of his time, and Ella was always by his side, inspiring him more than anything in the world. She even won over his mother, which was quite a feat, and she started calling her daughter, inviting her over, and always defending her in any disputes. Henry was very pleased with how things had turned out. From that moment on, the main character embarked